Welcome to Understanding Specially Designed Instruction. This presentation is presented by myself, Alicia Wolf, Special Education Instructional Specialist from the Office of Instructional Supports, Assessment, and Accountability.
Hello, my name is Andrea Burrell, and I also am a Special Education Instructional Specialist, and I work in the same office.
So today's objectives or outcomes, by the end of this presentation, you will be able to define specially designed instruction, or SDI, identify key components of SDI, and locate specific SDI components within your child's individualized education program, or IEP.
We will begin this session with a check-in. Then we will provide an overview of specially designed instruction by reviewing the definition, key components, and the role you play in your child's specially designed instruction. We will end this session with an activity that provides you the opportunity to take a look at your child's IEP in order to identify and analyze the specially designed instruction provided to your child. As you view this presentation, it may be helpful to have a notepad and pen handy, as you will be asked to jot down your thoughts and respond to some prompts. So we are going to begin with a check-in. Take a few moments to write or reflect on what you know, what you think you know, and what you want to know about specially designed instruction. So, take a few moments to complete this chart. Go ahead and press the pause button. And when you are ready to resume, press play.
If you paused your recording, welcome back. You should notice an image on the screen of 3 children. Take a minute to think to yourself, what do I notice? Take a look at the 2 images on the screen now. Take a moment to think to yourself, what do you notice? What are some differences between the 2 images? We can consider how these images might represent educational experiences of students. If we take a look at the 2 pictures, we can see a fence. The fence represents barriers to learning. We can also see in the background, there seems to be a baseball game going on. The game that the children are watching is like a lesson being taught in the classroom. So being able to see the game would be like being able to meet the objectives of the classroom lesson. The boxes that the children are standing on are representative of the supports that are provided to students in the classroom. The first image represents equality, in that it is giving everyone the same thing. Each child in the first picture, or the picture on the left, is standing on one box. Each child is given one box to be able to see the game. Equality, however, does not necessarily help every child be successful. So not every child can see over the fence in order to be able to see the game. The second picture, the one on the right, represents differentiation. Differentiation is giving each person what they need to be successful. So as you can see, the tallest child does not even need a box and can see over the fence. The child in the middle needed just one box to be able to see over the fence, and the child on the end, the shortest child, needed 2 boxes to be able to see over the fence. You might hear these educational practices in discussion with your child's school team. It's important to be familiar with them and what they mean for your child's learning experience. Each child's specially designed instruction that meets their individual needs is detailed in their individualized education program, or IEP. What is specially designed instruction, or SDI? Specially designed instruction means adapting as appropriate to the needs of a child with a disability, the content, methodology, or delivery of instruction to address the unique needs of the child that result from the child's disability. to ensure access of the child to the general education curriculum, and to enable the child to meet the educational standards that apply to all children. This is a direct quote taken from the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, or IDEA, or IDEIA as it's sometimes referred to. So what does that really mean? Specially designed instruction is outlined in a student's IEP. It is not provided to all students. Specially designed instruction is a service provided to a student. It is not a place a student goes. It is an addition to the core curriculum. It is not in place of the core curriculum. It is what the instructional team does. It's not what the student does. It is specific to the student. It is not a set schedule. In addition, specially designed instruction is instruction that allows a student to make progress in the enrolled grade level standards. It is not teaching only below grade level standards. It is instruction that changes the trajectory of growth to narrow the learning gap. It is not setting low expectations. SDI is an individually designed plan of services and supports. It is not a commercial program used in isolation. It is accommodations, program modifications, and supplementary aids and services for the student to access the general education curriculum. It is not only available in small group or one-to-one instruction. And finally, it is co-planned, co-implemented, and co-evaluated by a collaborative IEP team. It is not planned, implemented, or evaluated solely by the special educator. So what are the components of SDI? The components of SDI are instruction and intervention, accommodations and modifications, supplementary aids and services, and support to personnel or parents. In the next few slides, you'll see a magnifying glass. When you see the magnifying glass, they will let you know where to find the information in your child's IEP. So we're going to talk about each of these components, and there'll be a magnifying glass to tell you where to find it in your child's IEP. The first component is instruction and intervention. Instruction can be customized to meet the student's needs along multiple dimensions. So ongoing instruction for students with disabilities includes teaching to address IEP goals and objectives. It also includes supporting mastery of curriculum content. So it is individualized. When we're talking about teaching to address IEP goals and objectives, it's individualized based on the child's needs. So the present levels section of the IEP includes current and relevant data, such as educational assessments, teacher input, analysis of classwork and tests, parental input, etc. Content and grade level, each of those has a curriculum guide that they follow. It also includes the Maryland College and Career Ready standards. So when we're talking about instruction and intervention, and instruction being customized to meet the student's needs, you can find this information in the Part 3 of your child's IEP, in the Special Considerations and Accommodations section. You can also find this in the Goals section, and you can also find this in the Services section. Accommodations. Accommodations are changes to instruction and assessment that reduce barriers to accessing the content being taught and/or tested. This includes changes that do not fundamentally change or alter the content being taught. Accommodations are based on student need due to disability. Some common accommodations are extra response time, reducing distractions to others, reducing distractions to self, and calculator or calculation device. You can find your students' accommodations in the Special Considerations and Accommodations section of the IEP. Modifications, on the other hand, change what a student is taught or expected to learn. So when we modify, we're changing the expectations. Examples of modifications may include lowering the reading level of the text, simplifying questions on assessments, or reducing the range of skills taught. A modification may limit the student's ability to master grade level standards and ultimately meet graduation standards. So, IEP teams should consider the impact on student progress. So what's important here is that you know the difference between accommodations and modifications. Now, in the IEP, you can find accommodations and modifications in the supplementary aids section, and in the special considerations section. Accommodations do not change the expectations for learning, and they do not reduce the requirements of the tasks. Modifications, on the other hand, do change the expectations for learning, and they do reduce the requirements of the task. For example, reduce the number of items, alternate assignments that lower the reading level. So some examples below that would show the difference between an accommodation and a modification would be: an accommodation is an alternative book to support reading. A modification would be an alternative book at a lower readability level. An accommodation would be to reduce the number of problems while maintaining the problems having the same level of difficulty, for example, including problems with and without remainders. A modification is the student is assigned a problem without remainders. So again, it's changing the expectation. An accommodation would be using complex graphic organizers and then completing a 2-page report. A modification would be the use of simplified graphic organizer and then writing just a 5-sentence paragraph. So you can see that the accommodations, they are consistent with a specific standard, whereas the modifications might lower the expectation, the learning expectation. Another component of specially designed instruction is supplementary aids and services. So supports that enable the student to access, participate, and progress in the general education curriculum and environment, including non-academic and extracurricular activities, are supplementary aids and services. Some of them are, but they are not limited to, instructional supports, social and behavioral supports, physical, environmental supports. You can find supplementary aids and services in the special considerations and accommodations section of the IEP. Some examples of supplementary aids and services include supports to address environmental needs. Some examples are listed here as preferential seating, planned seating on the bus, altered physical room arrangement. Another category of examples might be levels of staff support needed. So for example, consultation, stop-in support, classroom companion, one-on-one assistance. Another category is child's specialized equipment needs. For example, wheelchair, computer, software, voice synthesizer, augmentative communication device, utensils, cups, or plates that are specialized, or restroom equipment. Pacing of instruction needed includes breaks, more time, a home set of materials, and other examples. Presentation of subject matter needed could include taped lectures, sign language, primary language, paired reading and writing. Materials needed as well could be listed under supplementary aids and services. Some examples include scanned tests and notes into computer, shared note-taking, large printer braille, or assistive technology. This is not an exhaustive list. There are many more different types of supplementary aids and services that can be added to that section of your child's IEP. It is really important that the IEP team discusses this part, because this is really where we get to the specially designed part of your child's IEP. And there's lots of options that can be provided in this section particularly. Another part of specially designed instruction is support to personnel or parents. So for example, training, coaching, and other resources to enable teachers, related service providers, and others to implement specially designed instruction with fidelity. This might include setting in time, service provider, inclusive training needs, and monitoring. This can also be found in the special considerations and accommodations section of the IEP.
Specially designed instruction, SDI, and parental input. As a parent, guardian, or surrogate, you are an important member of the IEP team. You have valuable information to share about your child. This section of the training will highlight SDI and parental input. Your input as a parent contributes to developing specially designed instruction that works for your child. Some ways you contribute to the team include learning and understanding the process, specifically the IEP process, sharing information. You are the expert as it relates to your child. You know more about your child than the other members of the IEP team. Share important information about your child with the other members of the team. Ask questions. If you have questions, ask. Teams are there to support you. Offer suggestions. If you know firsthand of something that may benefit your child in the educational setting, then please share that information with the team. Keeping the team's focus on the big picture and your child's long-term needs. At times, the school team can narrow their focus to the current school year and the following year. But you have the big picture focus, and you want to remind the team that you are also considering your child's future while discussing their current academic and functional performance. Lastly, speaking up on your child's behalf. Other things you can do. You can make a list of your child's strengths and needs. Maybe it may be helpful to make this list prior to the meeting. Also consider not only strengths and needs as it relates to academics, but also functional skills and extracurricular activities. Talk to all of your child's teachers to get their input. All of your child's teachers may not be present during the IEP meeting, so just scheduling a time to touch base with all of your child's teachers could be very helpful. Talk to your child about his or her feelings towards school. Also, it may be helpful to create a binder where you organize all of the IEP paperwork. A helpful resource is understood.org. Understood.org is an organization that is dedicated to growing and shaping a world where everyone who learns and thinks differently feels supported at home, at school, and at work. They have tons of resources to support families. 2 articles that we highlighted are questions to ask before and during your child's IEP meeting, as well as questions to ask about your child's IEP goals. And both of these articles are linked into our presentation. So once the presentation is sent to you, you will have access to both of these articles. But when you have the opportunity, just checking out this website if you have not already done so. They have tons and tons of resources. So in short, SDI is what's outlined in your child's IEP. So now that we've had the opportunity to really provide an overview of SDI, we want to summarize by saying, again, in short, SDI, specially designed instruction, is what is outlined in your child's IEP. So it is individualized based upon your child's characteristics and the needs that result from the impacts of their disability. It is collaboratively designed and implemented by members of the IEP team, including the general and special education teachers, related service providers, and other professionals, and the student and family. It is intended to allow your child to access and progress in the general education curriculum by addressing skill deficits, adapting the delivery of instruction to meet needs, removing barriers to equitable engagement, and providing needed supports. SDI is grounded in evidence-based practices and monitored for effectiveness. It is also adjusted and intensified as needed based on data to accelerate your child's rates of growth. Activity time. So now we have provided an overview of specially designed instruction. It is time to apply what we have reviewed in this training. This will be a great time for you to grab your child's IEP and a pen. Feel free to press pause if you need to go gather those things. And when you are ready, press play. All right, take a look at your child's IEP. Take a few moments to earmark each section of your child's IEP that was discussed today. Specifically, Section 3, Special Considerations and Accommodations, Supplementary Aids, Services, and Program Modifications. Section 4, Goals, and Section 5, Services. Feel free to press pause here while you do this, and then press play when you are ready to proceed. Step 2. Now that you have earmarked each section discussed today, take a few moments to review and take notes on those sections. Use this key as you annotate your child's IEP. Anything that's important, placing a star beside it, a question mark beside any information that you have a question about, circling words or phrases that you don't understand or you would like further clarification on, placing a plus sign next to statements that you agree with, and a minus sign next to those statements that you disagree with. Once you finish annotating, begin to generate a list of topics you would like to share during your child's next IEP meeting. This is step 3. Maybe your list includes your child's strengths and needs, questions you have about their IEP, clarifications you may need, etc. Feel free to press pause here while you annotate. Press play when you are ready for our final activity. Right. Our final activity is our checkout. Now that we've provided an overview of SDI and you've had the opportunity to review and annotate your child's IEP, please take a few moments to review what you wrote during the check-in and record any new learning. And while you are finishing up that, we will say thank you for your time and your attention. If you have further questions or concerns, please reach out to the Family Support Center. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.